Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Guys, I hope you're having a good weekend. Welcome to my room. I hope you're ready for an interesting topic, I would say. Which, what would I say? Tentatively is titled somewhat enigmatically, what healthy INTPs have taught me or can tell us about MBTI. We'll see if I stick to that title when I upload the video. But there's a reason why I titled the video in this way, and here is the reason. I think that there's something, or rather there's everything to be learned about MBTI from observation rather than the pure reliance on the authority of the theory. You know, you can look at the theory, look at what it says, and check for yourself whether reality squares with it. So that means, a series of observations, but also, and that's the fundamental aspect, observation of healthy individuals. Because if you observe unhealthy individuals, well, by definition, in a way, they will be outliers. They won't have a normal manifestation of function use, and that will, in a way, will bias your results. So, ideally, what you want to have is a population of healthy individuals. Now, it's very difficult to access a place where the population is guaranteed to be healthy or almost guaranteed to be healthy, because we have, there are unbalanced people in every country, in every place. And sometimes it's hard to tell whether the person is healthy or not. We are not all, very few among us are actually trained, as psychologists or clinicians to make that objective assessment, but we have to kind of rely on our intuition. Now, in Ireland, my claim is that people in general, and I think that has to do with education, a lot of it has to do with education, very solid educational and family values in Ireland. I have found that it is the country with the highest proportion of healthy individuals of any country that I have been in. And this translates into a healthy manifestation of a function stack by a person of a certain type. Irish INTPs, in this particular instance, are striking to me, and I have met a few ever since I came back here, sorry. It strikes me, you could use other types, but INTPs are interesting because it really strikes me how Irish INTPs on average are good feelers. Like it's really so opposite to some of the views that you can sometimes see online, and the views that not only belong to the mythology of MBTI, but also sometimes are cultivated by INTPs themselves, not minority of INTPs, but online INTPs that are either really, really young or immature, or unbalanced in some way. Maybe they're, it's quite possible that they are disproportionately represented online, just like unhealthy INFJs or unhealthy INFPs, unhealthy all types. Because if they spend a lot of their time online, well, maybe they're not very socialized, and that's always an issue for health. But Irish INTPs, everyone I've met, healthy. And I can say this and I can tell you this because they manifest FE very often, and they're very good at manifesting FE. Now, when I say they're good at manifesting FE, we have to look at what this means, because this is what eventually, by sort of trying to, thinking about that topic, brought me those insights into MBTI that confirmed intuitions. Sorry about this. Confirmed intuitions that I had for a long time, and that I'm sure have some corroborating literature, but I just hadn't accessed it. But confirmed intuitions about function use and what not to do when you're trying to assess a person's type. Essentially, INTPs I've met in Ireland, all of them systematically, they manifest FE a lot and in the right circumstances. So if you have a certain situation in which you have an interaction with a group team or, you know, whatever it might be, social interaction most of the time, a healthy INTP will definitely be able to muster FEUs to facilitate the conversation. Now, that doesn't mean that it's their main function. It just means that it's a function that is in their stack and they're able to manifest it. And it's very pleasant. And every INTP that I've met in Ireland, including in my workplace, has been like a very lovely person. Not just a smart person, not just a rational person, not just a creative person, not just an original person, but a nice person, a person who you want to spend time with, the person who you would be easily, you know, you would be easily willing to describe it as lovely. I think the nicest person, perhaps in my current workplace, nicest in the sense of like most selfless and not animated by, you know, ego desires, and always willing to be positive with others and open to listening to others and contribute some humorous remark or contribute some insight, is an INTP. The nicest person. Now, you might not be used to hearing this, but this is on my honest appraisal. Now, there are lots of nice people in my workplace, but that guy especially is like literally you want to call him an angel. So you see, that's the possibility for a healthy INTP. But nevertheless, the reason for still identifying him as an INTP is that despite manifesting all the functions well, it's quite clear that he is most, in a sense, he is most developed when it comes to TINE and to an extent SI. And that means that the FE that he manifests is of a different qualitative nature than it would be most strikingly in the FE of an ESFJ or an ENFJ, but also different from the FE, and I'm talking about healthy individuals, the healthy of an INFJ or an ISFJ, different from the FE of a healthy ENTP or ESTP. It's a somewhat, you know, I have a friend who's an INTP, and I believe, I mean, I've only interacted with him in writing on the forum, but I'm strongly inclined to believe he's a very healthy INTP, and sometimes he refers to his quite visible FE as my baby FE. And now I don't want this to sound patronizing, because it's really not meant to be. But in a sense, this person that I'm talking about at my workplace, but also other INTPs I've met in Ireland since I came back, they manifest this healthy but nevertheless kind of baby FE. It's almost like it doesn't have the same qualitative differentiation that an INFJ's FE would have or an ENFJ's FE would have. Just in the same way that, like, you know, an INFJ's TI being tertiary will not have the same qualitative differentiation that an INTP's TI would have. So you could think about it in terms of these levels of differentiation. So his FE comes across a lot more, in a certain sense, a bit more childlike. But it's very nice, it's very pleasant, and it's lovely. But it's not the same FE as the ENFJ's FE or the INFJ's FE or even the ENTP's FE. It can be, like an INTP's FE can be in a certain way better and healthier than an INFJ's FE. But it can never be as qualitatively differentiated. And that's what tells you that the person is an INTP, if they're healthy. So, in other words, what I learned from observing this is that it is indeed a wrong approach when you're trying to identify someone's type, and this is something that everybody does online. Everybody does that, and as a result, most people get typed wrong. And this is very serious, and I want you to listen to this and carve it into your mind, okay? Because this will be very useful, I think. I mean, if you believe it, if you think that I'm right about this, but I think it makes a lot of intuitive sense, and empirical sense as well. When you discuss someone's type, you can't say, for example, this person is an INTP because most of the time they use TI, a little bit less of the time they use NE, a little bit less of the time they use SI, and then really infrequently they use FE. You know, like you can't assess a person's function stack in terms of how often they manifest the functions as if those functions were always examples of the exact same qualitative nature. So it's like you'd have in your mind, this is what an NI looks like, or in the case of the INTP, this is what TI looks like, this is what NE looks like. For everybody, for NE looks the same for an INTP or for an ISFJ. The only difference is that the INTP uses it a lot and the ISFJ uses it rarely. No, it's not true. It is quite probable that an INTP will use, so to speak, NE more than FE, and that an ISFJ will, do the reverse. But the fundamental difference is not that. It's the qualitative nature, the way in which FE is manifested. So there's this hierarchy that you might have come across online between the parent, the child, all these different manifestations, and that comes with a certain kind of weird vocabulary, but there is some truth in it. Always think, if you're trying to assess whether someone is, let's say, an ESTJ, you can't just be like, oh yeah, like I can see that he uses NE from time to time, so that must be NE tertiary. The question is, look into whether the manifestation of NE is at the level of differentiation that you might expect from any tertiary. Don't think in terms of how often it's manifested, because if you do that, you get it wrong. And I see on the website Personality Database, you might be familiar, personality-database.com. I visit it a little bit too often in my spare time sometimes, because I really get into like trying to figure out what anime character, what is their type seen as, or a public figure or something like that. And for some of them, there are like big conversations, and there are so many people who think, oh yeah, so clearly, this person has any tertiary because they use it sometimes. No, it's what does it look like, and if possible, also try not to go too much into the whole like shadow functions thing, because it's something that you cannot really empirically observe. You can't. It's unconscious. So I see that a lot on Personality Database, like, oh, this person can't be that because their seventh function clearly can't be that. It's like you're never going to get the answer you want and the correct answer based on that. Focus on the main functions and the qualitative nature of those functions. I realized that someone created a profile for me on Personality Database, so you can just type my name if you want to have a look and vote on what type you think I might be, and if you think that I'm right about the type I think I am. But either way, that was my contribution. So thank you, Irish INTPs. Thank you, healthy INTPs, for confirming my intuitions about the function stack. See you guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.